Welcome, everybody. We are here with more Star Wars CCG content. This one is sort of interesting red cards that maybe you want to consider using. So Andy put together 7 light side, 7 dark side. So these are just sort of less popular, but kind of interesting, maybe techie kind of cards you want to use. So Andy, you want to take it away on sort of what we should be doing here?
Yeah, sure. So all of these cards fall between Degba and Special Edition, which are kind of notorious sets for having like lots of red cards
Crap.
and not really a lot of characters and starships. And then those sets also just have some like really good staple cards, Clash of Sabers, Weapon Levitation, that type of stuff. So like a lot of times some of the like other red cards in those sets just get overlooked, but these are ones that I kind of went through and looked at and said they have pretty interesting game text on them. Um, so they're maybe worth another look if it's something that you might want to consider for your deck. They're by no means bad cards. They all have like good game text. It could just be that either they have like low destiny numbers, so you don't really want to put them in, or they're like lost interrupts, so you can only really ever use them once and then they're kind of done, or they take a little bit of setup or something. But anyway, there's basically 6 pairs of mirrored interrupts for light side and dark side, and then 2 additional ones, one for each side. So it ends up being 7 cards on each side, but it's really like, I guess, whatever it is, 6 cards for 6 overall.
6 and a bonus, yeah.
Yeah. So the first set I chose was kind of they're pretty similar, but they work in different arenas. So there's Ambush and Overwhelmed. So Ambush is light side version. It's a lost interrupt from Cloud City. During your turn, target a site where your total power is more than double opponent's total power. And unless they have a Dark Jedi or character weapon there, place each of opponent's characters, vehicles, and starships there and cards on them into their owner's used pile. So you can you can set it up where like you end up putting down like Luke and Obi-Wan and Han or something, and you're power 14, and they have like Mara Jade and Forlom or something, right? You could just put Mara Jade and Forlom back into their used pile. You don't necessarily have to fight them, although usually if you have double your opponent's total power, you probably want to fight them so that you make them lose characters. But this can be a good way to get rid of like certain characters that are just otherwise hard to get rid of, like undercover spies. So if you have U3PO, if Darkseid has U3PO at the site, you can ambush U3PO and put them into their used pile, or IG-88 with riot gun, or Forlom with concussion rifle, because you can't normally battle them. They're droids that don't have presence. So it's a way to get rid of those types of cards as well. The dark side version basically is the same. It has a better destiny at Destiny 5, but this one's not at any time during your turn, but only specifically during your deploy phase. You can target a system where your total power is more than double opponent's total power, and they have no Jedi or starship weapons, and you can place all of their starships and cards on them, pilots basically, in their used pile. So very easy to get rid of a Super Falcon this way, right? So Super Falcon would be Millennium Falcon with Captain Han and Leia with blaster rifle. So you normally would get 3 battle destinies off that and be immune to attrition less than 5, but that only has 7 power. So as long as you can get to 15 power, which isn't necessarily really that hard with like Executor and like a pilot, basically, you can just get rid of their Falcon. Again, this also works on things like Landing Claw. So if they have a Landing Claw ship to your capital, you can Overwhelmed and put the ship with the Landing Claw back in their deck and then start draining again. Of course, with both of these, your opponent can draw back into the cards that they had put back into their deck, but maybe it buys you a few turns, which is all.
Yeah, I actually found that kind of useful with like a secret base X-Wing deck, right? Because it can be so annoying to know they have organized attack in their hand, or block its foils. Just like, be a nice way to get rid of like some X-wings off the board to like try to get a little bit in the game there.
Yeah, definitely. And then continuing with a space, you've coordinated attack and precise hit. These are exactly mirrored. They're both from special edition. They're both commons, I think. They're both used or lost interrupts. Used during a battle at a system or sector, instead of firing a starship weapon, you can reduce targets a different target starship power by 4 until the end of turn, which that's not really that great. Plus it's a Destiny 2. But the really the part that you would kind of want to use this for would be the lost function. During a battle at a system or sector, you can use 3/4 to cancel a battle destiny just drawn. So if you're both getting 1 battle destiny, they are going to draw a 5 and it's going to make you lose your ship. You can, instead cancel it, and then you don't lose your ship and maybe they have to lose theirs. So it can get you out of a jam with it, canceling a destiny. It can also work with, like, if your opponent has CalFal KFC from Premier, and you're both going to draw 1 destiny, and they draw a higher destiny than your destiny, you can cancel theirs so they can't reduce yours to 0. Stuff like that. So it's always good to be able to cancel a destiny every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, 2 is just a kind of a harsh destiny number, but
right. And that's why I said, some of these cards kind of get overlooked. Like, the game text on that card isn't terrible, but you would have to use it as a lost interrupt, and it'd be a Destiny 2 that you'd have floating around. But if that's something that you're looking for, like, you want to make sure you want to be able to cancel a Destiny draw every once in a while, there's a card for it, and that's your card. Yeah. I'm going to skip over to this because this is the same card, but on the ground. So it's End This Destructive Conflict, which is a rare from Cloud City, and Higher Ground, which is also a rare from Cloud City. It's basically the same thing, but on the ground. During a battle out of sight, instead of firing one of your character weapons, cause an opponent's character to be power -4 until the end of turn, or lost during a battle out of sight, use 3/4 to cancel a battle destiny just drawn. Those are mirrored, and they're the same thing as this space one, right? Instead of firing your starship weapon, make them power -4. Instead of firing your character weapon, make them power -4. So the ground one is a lot better because most decks are going to be on the ground, and sometimes you just want to cancel a destiny draw, or if they draw 2 destinies, you want to cancel one of them so that your Lord Vader can live through with his immunity to attrition or something like that. So
well, also, I guess with EPPs, like, the first part of that card is, like, maybe you're not going to hit Vader with your Leia with blaster, so you can reduce him by 4. It's not
right. So it's harder to set up with a starship weapon. So they're decent cards. They're really good in all of the Jedi, which is the limited sealed format on GEMP, because canceling a destiny draw and sealed deck is, like, very good, but they're not bad for constructed. Then you have Dark Approach and Release Your Anger, which are basically the same card. They're Destiny 4 lost interrupts. So if opponent just initiated battle, you may do one of the following. You can add a destiny to your total power only, which isn't really that great. Or if you have a character weapon present, select an opponent's character to lose all immunity to attrition for the remainder of turn. So probably you would be using it for that second or function. If they've got an Emperor Palpatine or a Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight that you're just not going to get through, he's immune to attrition less than 7 because he's got a lightsaber and he's by himself, you could just cancel his immunity to attrition. It's a one-trick, one-shot pony, but, sometimes you just need to cancel your opponent's immunity, and this card does that. You probably would just never play this to add a destiny to power only. This is not really that good, but being able to cancel immunity to attrition can be very handy. So, an interesting red card. Then I have a bad feeling about this in Surprise. Now, Surprise is is overall a better card than the light side version because we'll get into, but Surprise is also canceled by Gunite, which is one of the most played light side cards. So you really can't play Surprise, which is unfortunate because the card's really good. But basically, they're both Destiny 3 Lost Interrupts. Use 3 Force, retarget an interrupt or routine effect which specifies one target to another appropriate target on the same side of Force, or relocate any effect, except those immune to alter, deployed on a location to another appropriate location. So for Dark Side, the reason why Surprise is better than I have a bad feeling about this is because Light Side will often play Projection of a Skywalker to reduce a force drain by -1 on a planet site. And you can Surprise, because it's not immune to alter when you're doing it that way. You can surprise it to your opponent's site or to some, like, Yoda's hut that nobody's ever going to go to and force drain at. And then that then that gives you your force drain back, which is why Surprise is really good. But Goonie Take cancels Surprise, just straight up cancels it. So, unfortunately, you're not really going to see Surprise too often, but even with Goonie Take canceling Surprise, it's still worth considering just because it's so good against something like Projection of a Skywalker. For Light Side, you can relocate things like Presence of the Force or Expand the Empire, stuff like that, where you can retarget them to be at more advantageous locations for yourself. The other side, which is retargeting interrupts or routine effects, mostly comes on the interrupt side. Most people don't play routine effects like Luke or Destroyed Homestead or something like that. But the interrupts, you could have them, they have Leia with blaster rifle and Han with blaster rifle, and they're going to, sorry about the mess, you're U3PO. But you also have a character there, whatever the scenario is, you could retarget Leia's gun to Emperor Palpatine. And then it's pretty hard for them to hit. So they just kind of wasted their sorry about the mess. Or they're going to use Clash of Sabers, or I guess in this case, you were beaten Obi-Wan out of the battle. You can retarget it to, Twaska, and she goes out of the battle. So you can keep your Obi-Wan in there. So it's kind of like almost, it's not a counter spell. And if you're thinking about it in Magic terms, it's more of like a deflection, but it lets you retarget things, which is very useful when it is useful. So that's a good card. And then I've got another set, which is they're coming in too fast and direct assault. These ones at least are used interrupts. Destiny 4. If you have a piloted starship armed with a starship weapon, select an opponent's starship present to lose all immunity to attrition for the remainder of turn, or cancel a few maneuvers. So this one's probably more for the Death Star 2 era, where you might have Saber 1 with Baron and the gun that goes on the TIE Interceptor, or Major Meanda on side 1 with the other TIE cannon that goes on TIE LNs, right? And then you can make their home 1 lose all of its immunity to attrition, or you can make their Falcon lose all of its immunity to attrition, or whichever one you want, so that it can try to force your opponent to have to lose the ship or lose some of the characters on the ship that you wouldn't normally otherwise. The light side one is probably a little bit more useful than the dark side one, just because light side will play things like X-Wing laser cannon, because they need a way to deal with Zuckuss and Mist Hunter. And then this also would just allow them to cancel Executor or Chimera's immunity to attrition. So the light side one's probably a little bit better just because they have overall a better starship weapon. But so those are all the kind of matched paired ones. And then I just have 2 other kind of standalone ones. This one's from Dagobah. It's a Destiny 2 Lost Interrupt, so it's not really that great, but at the start of the damage segment during a battle, before any cards have been forfeited, cause all attrition on both sides to be reduced to 0, which sometimes you don't want to reduce your attrition because you want your opponent to forfeit characters. So it's a little bit, it needs a little bit of setup, but if you hit your opponent's character with a weapon, you don't really care that they're going to lose their attrition, because the battle destiny, when you draw it, it's still going to count towards your overall power. You're just canceling attrition. And if they already have to forfeit all their characters anyway, then you could cancel the attrition, which also cancels the attrition that you would have to face. And then you don't have to lose anything to it. So there's a little bit of setup, but again, similar to canceling immunity to attrition, canceling all of the attrition for you can sometimes just be a lot better than making your opponent lose, an Admiral Ozzel that forfeits for 6 or something like that. And the last card is a Brief Loss of Control, which is a Lost Interrupt from Cloud City. This one is a rare. Just after the weapons phase of a battle, you can use 2 force to cause each player to target one of the characters involved in that battle. That character cannot apply their ability towards drawing a battle destiny this turn. So if you have, I don't know, the Emperor and Simalu at a site, and your opponent has Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, after the battle, after the weapons phase, you can use 2 force. You target Simalu or the Emperor, doesn't matter because they both draw destiny, and your opponent's forced to choose their only character there. Now they can't draw battle destiny anymore. Or maybe they have Wedge, Red Squadron Leader, and Biggs together, whatever it is, and you have 2 characters, Tarkin and Vader, right? You can target your Tarkin. They have to target one of their characters. They no longer get to draw a battle destiny. You do, so you have to set it up where you're going to go into the battle knowing that whatever character they choose, it's going to stop them from drawing a destiny, while the character you choose is not going to impact your ability to draw destiny. So I guess the theme of all of these cards is they're all kind of good in very specific situations during battles to add destinies, cancel destinies, or make your opponent not be able to draw a destiny. It's kind of the worst. Cancels immunity to attrition, which is kind of like all related to like doing something a little bit tricky in battle to get the edge, because a lot of times, the characters stack up pretty evenly against each other. So anything you can do to get an edge in a battle is probably going to help you win that game. And those are all of my cards that I have here.
I think we're going to come back and do a popular red card series. This just reminded me of all the ones out there that I've just never thought about using. I guess there's a few in here, but it's nice to sort of open up the Rolodex of cards, or the sort of compendium, and to think about all the stuff you could be doing. But Andy, thanks so much for sharing this list with us. That's all the time we have today. Like, subscribe, all that garbage, blah, blah, blah. Plug it, plug all the things. Thumbs up emoji. But that's all the time we have for today, and we'll catch you guys